90% of salespeople are broke. Not struggling, not getting by, broke. They're living paycheck to paycheck, stressed about money, and wondering why everyone else seems to be crushing it while they're barely surviving. But here's what nobody wants to tell you. It's not because they don't work hard. It's not because they don't even know their product. It's not even because they don't have leads. The 90% who are broke have a completely different mindset than the 10% who get rich in sales. Look, my name is Justin James, and I've generated over 22 million plus in sales personally, and I've trained thousands of salespeople all across the world. And I can tell you within 5 minutes of talking to someone, whether they're going to be broke or whether they're going to be rich. And look, the difference is simple. It's not in their technique. It's to do with what's going on in their head. So today, I'm going to expose the brutal truth about why most salespeople fail. And more importantly, I'm going to show you exactly why the 10% do it differently. And if you're tired of being broke, if you're ready to join the elite, then pay attention. Now, let me paint you a picture of an average salesperson. They wake up every morning hoping today will be different. They make their calls, they send their emails, they go to their meetings, and at the end of the month, they're scrambling to hit their quota, right? They blame the leads. They blame the economy. Heck, they might even blame their manager. And they may even just blame their competition. They blame everything except the one thing that's actually keeping them broke, their own mindset. And here's the brutal truth. Broke salespeople think like employees. They show up, they do their job, they go home. They think success is about working harder, making more calls, sending more emails. They're stuck in activity mode instead of results mode. Now, rich salespeople think like business owners. They don't just sell products, they solve problems. They don't just make calls, they build relationships. They don't just hit quotas, they create wealth. And here's what really pisses me off. The broke salespeople often work harder than the rich ones. They're grinding 12-hour days, making hundreds of calls and getting nowhere. Meanwhile, the rich ones, they're out there working smarter, not harder, and banking some serious money. Now, I've identified 5 key mindset differences between broke salespeople and rich salespeople. Now, you master these and you'll never be broke again in sales. Ignore them, and guess what? You'll stay exactly where you are, okay? So, difference number 1, how they actually view rejection. You see, broke salespeople take rejection personally. When someone says no, they think I'm not good enough, or my product sucks, or I'm a failure, and they let one rejection ruin their entire day. Rich salespeople see rejection as information. When someone says no, they think, well, what can I learn from this? How can I improve? Who's my next prospect? They understand that every no gets them closer to a yes. And here's the reality. If you're not getting rejected, you're not selling enough. The top performers get rejected more than anyone else, man. Because they're talking to more people, right? They've developed almost like a rejection immunity, if you want to call it that. Now, difference number 2, how they approach prospects, okay? Broke salespeople approach prospects like beggars. They're desperate for the sale. They'll discount, they'll beg, they'll do whatever it takes to get a yes. And prospects can smell that a mile off, okay? They can smell that desperation a mile off. Now, rich salespeople instead, they approach prospects like they're consultants, like they're consultants for these people. They're there to help, not to sell. They ask questions and they listen. They diagnose problems. They position themselves as experts, not vendors on the street market, okay? When you approach someone as a consultant, they treat you like one. When you approach them as a beggar, they treat you like one too. Which one do you think gets paid more? You guessed it, the consultant. Now, difference number 3, how they handle objections. Broke salespeople fear objections. They try to avoid them. They get defensive when they pop up and they crumble under pressure. They think objections basically mean the prospect doesn't want to buy, right? Now, rich salespeople love objections. They know that objections mean the prospect is engaged and they're considering the purchase. They see objections as opportunities to provide more value and build more trust. And here's what rich ones know that the broke ones don't. The sale doesn't start until the prospect objects. If someone doesn't object, they're either not interested or they're not even taking you seriously. Think about it, right? Now, difference number 4, how they invest in themselves. Sadly, broke salespeople think they already know everything. They won't invest in training, they won't read books, they won't hire coaches. They think success comes naturally, and when it doesn't, they blame external factors. Whereas rich salespeople are obsessed with learning. They read books, they attend seminars, they hire coaches, they invest in their skills. They understand that their direct income is a reflection of their direct personal development. Okay, I've spent over 100,000 on my own education and development. Why? Because I know that every pound I invest, it returns tenfold. The broke salespeople think that's too expensive. The rich ones know it's not too expensive. No, it's actually too expensive not to invest. Make sense? Difference number 5, how they think about money. This is a big one. Broke salespeople, unfortunately, have a scarcity mindset. Okay, they think that there's not enough to go around. They're afraid to even ask for what they're worth, and they apologize for their prices almost. Okay, rich salespeople have an abundance mindset. They know there's an unlimited amount of money out there in the world, and they deserve their fair share. Right? They're confident in their value. They never apologize for their prices, and they justify them. It's valid, right? And here's the truth that broke salespeople don't want to hear. Okay, you'll never make more money than you think you deserve. If you don't believe you're worth 100K, then I'm sorry, you'll never ever make 100K. Your external results will always match your internal beliefs, plain and simple. So it's not all doom and gloom. How do you go from being in the 90% to the 10%? How do you transform your mindset from broke to rich? It's not as hard as you think, but it requires commitment, my friends, okay? First, you need to audit your current mindset. Be brutally honest with yourself. Which category do you think you fall into each of these 5 differences, okay? Don't lie to yourself. Your bank account already knows the truth, my friends, okay? Second, you need to start with acting like the salesperson that you want to become, not the person you currently are. If you want to make 200K a year, start thinking and acting like someone who makes 200K a year. Now, thirdly, you need to invest in your own development. Okay, look, read books, attend seminars, hire coaches. Rich salespeople, the ones that I know, they spend at least 10% of their income on personal development. What are you spending? Now, fourth, you need to change your environment. Stop hanging around broke salespeople who complain all day. Start networking with successful people who challenge you to grow. And fifth, you need to take massive action, okay? Knowledge without action is worthless. The difference between the 90% and the 10% isn't what they know, it's what they do with what they know. Make sense? Now, let me give you 2 real examples from my own experience. I had 2 salespeople. They started with me on the same day, okay? Same training, same leads, same product, same commission structure. Everything was the same, okay? Salesperson A, they had a broke mindset, okay? He complained about the leads, made excuses, when he didn't hit targets, refused to invest in additional training, said things like, the market is tough and people don't have money right now. After 6 months, he was making about 30 grand a year and constantly stressed about money. Now, salesperson B, she had a rich mindset, okay? She saw every rejection as an opportunity. She treated every prospect like she was in a consultation. And she actually invested 15% of her income back into development. She said things like, how can I serve this person better? What do I need to learn to improve? And guess what? After 6 months, she was making over 120,000 a year and loving every single minute of it, right? Same opportunity, same resources, completely different results. The only difference, what was happening in between their ears, okay? Now, here's another example from my own journey. When I first started in sales after leaving nursing, I had the broke mindset. I was desperate for every sale. I took rejection so personally, and I was afraid to ask for what I was really worth. Truth? Well, I was making about 40 grand a year if I was lucky, and I was hating life, right? Then I invested £5,000 in a sales training program, money I didn't have at the time, by the way. And that investment changed everything. Not because of the techniques that I learned, but because of the mindset shift that happened. I started thinking like rich salespeople instead of a broke one. And within 12 months, I tripled my income. Within 24 months, I was making more in a month than I used to make in an entire year. And that 5,000 investment that I made, has returned over 20 million plus in sales. And it's the best investment that I ever made, right? So look, here's the bottom line. You have a choice. You can stay in the 90% who are broke, making excuses, blaming everyone else for their lack of success, or you can join the 10% who are rich, taking responsibility and doing whatever it takes to win. The choice is ultimately yours, but understand this, your current mindset got you your current results. And if you want different results, you need a different mindset, okay? Now, I know some of you are thinking or sitting there thinking, this all sounds great, Jessen, but how do I actually make this transformation? How do I develop the mindset of the top 10%? That's exactly what I teach in my Closing Incubator program. It's a 12-week personalized intensive with me, one-to-one, where I don't just teach you sales techniques, I rewire your entire mindset for you to become successful. I take you from thinking like a broke 90% person to thinking like the rich 10%. And I've used these exact same mindset principles to generate over 22 million in sales for myself, and my clients have gone on to generate over 200 million using these same methods. If you're serious about joining the elite 10%, if you're tired of being broke and ready to start getting rich, comment mindset below and I'll send you my complete millionaire salesperson mindset guide. It breaks down all the 5 mindset principles that I spoke about earlier in complete detail with action steps on how to implement and use each one. And if you really, really want to work with me directly, if you want the complete system with life coaching, mindset transformation, and everything else that comes with that, let's have a conversation about my Closing Incubator. Because look, the only difference between the broke 90% and the rich 10% is what's happening in between areas, right? So look, change your mindset, change your income, plain and simple. Comment mindset down below and let's get you out of the broke 19% and into the rich 10% where you know you belong.